What's good, y'all? Kush Hayes here, coming to you with episode 121 of the Microdose. We are currently in the middle of some downtime in our post-NBA season. The Warriors, as of this recording, are set to square off against the Boston Celtics tonight. Game 3. It'll probably be Game 4 by the time this broadcast. But the series is currently tied 1-1. I actually had the good fortune to get some pickup work during the finals at both games 1 and 2. It's a good time, it's a good crew, it's a good job, good gig, good pay. I've discovered why I didn't get on the team that I wanted to be a part of. And, well, not to get into it, but it goes back to what I believe I said last week. If it wasn't on this, it was on the Waffle Box, the best part of Wednesdays. If you're the best at what you do, they can't do the event without you. But if you're just anyone else, well, they'll find anyone else. And sad to say that's kind of where we were, no matter what the outcome was. But we're working now. We're happy to be working. More work on the horizon. But that means that I didn't have time to put together a fresh guest. So back on Microdose 116, we had from the Where Nobody Knows Your Name podcast, we got introduced to Barry Hall, and we reunited with James Marshall. And here's some content from that episode that you didn't get to hear. We actually went long that night. It was a good time. It's a lot of good laughs. But picked up another 30 minutes of content you haven't heard from these two fine gentlemen all the way out of the UK. And without any further ado, because we've been babbling, we're going to get right into it. So this is Microdose number 121. IAmSoLoco. Please hit the music now.
Microdose, yeah, microdose, 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 dose, microdose, microdose, dose, microdose, microdose, dose.
What's good, y'all? Kush Hayes here, coming to you with another edition of the Microdose, local by choice, international by nature edition. These are some of my favorite episodes. Returning all the way from the United Kingdom, Where Nobody Knows Your Name, the host, James Marshall. What's good, dude?
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, always glad to be here. Always a lot of fun Cheers chat.
Dude, we have the best time talking about Cheers. Barry Hall. Barry, what's good, dude? How you doing?
Hello, nice to be here.
It's exciting times. Guys, we're having a good time talking about Cheers here, but what other TV shows are you watching over there? Are you watching anything from America, or is it all just BBC and Channel 4? What has captured your attention that is not Cheers?
Moon Knight, which I've really enjoyed. Moon Knight.
Okay.
We haven't got the final episode here yet, I don't think.
No, it's Wednesday night, Thursday morning.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, actually, because of when this airs, it dropped last night.
Yeah. Well, none of us have seen it, though, is what's important. The series is interesting. It's taking a lot of deep roots. I'm very curious to see where it goes, but so far I have not been impressed with many of the Disney Plus series. Like, I'm happy to watch them as they stream, but I don't go back to them ever. Not at all.
And I feel a very similar way. Sometimes when there's new movies coming out, particularly sequels of a specific character, I'm like, okay, I might watch the films which directly link to this. But with the new Doctor Strange film, I'm like, okay, there's too much related to this. I don't need to watch the TV shows. I don't need to watch Loki again to understand this, for example.
Yeah, especially, I mean, Hawkeye, I was very hit and miss on.
Hawkeye was disappointing.
And Loki, interesting. Lots of interesting stuff going on. I don't know. They're pretty throwaway, really.
Loki, when I watched it, I hate that they're going to make a season 2. The only thing I liked about all these Disney series is that they were supposed to be one and done. We're not supposed to get another WandaVision. It's just supposed to be Doctor Strange 2. Captain America and the Winter Soldier, like, we're going to get Captain America 4 out of that. And then Hawkeye was just like, Jeremy Renner just wants to put the character to bed. Let him. But then Loki comes in and it's like season 2, like more just we don't need any more multiverses, and we don't need a fight every 36 minutes, and everything smells like mahogany and Benson and Hedges cigarettes. Like there's when I watch Loki, and I don't have this for any other show, like there's a very specific smell coming through the screen. I'm just like, everything smells like bourbon and cigarettes. I don't know why, but no one's smoking or drinking.
Just Don Draper there going, it's like, what we need is a multiverse show.
I didn't even watch Mad Men, but I got that reference. I understood that reference. So, but Moon Knight's still holding my attention. But again, it's one of those things where, thankfully, it's 6 episodes. Is it 6 or 8?
6. Yeah, I would have struggled if it was 10. Like, I think there was one of them which was 10 episodes. I forgot which one.
Any of the Netflix series. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I like, again, I like that we're only doing 6 episodes, but for some reason they still keep the pace of those Netflix series where there's still filler we don't need. And then the climax is super rushed because, oh shit, we don't have 4 more episodes to do anything with this. Like, it's got to end now. And that's incredibly frustrating.
I definitely felt that with the WandaVision finale, where they were like, we're like, welcome to the final episode. Fight!
Here's a question. And so Oscar Isaac got, before the series, a lot of flack over the accent, the English accent he was doing.
Oh yeah, gators.
Yeah, interesting. That's not a thing over here. Everyone's like, isn't that charming? Look at it. He's doing an accent. Like, Americans are eating that shit up, but it was not a controversy. Please break it down.
Well, I mean, at first, I was the same as everyone else. I thought, oh God, here's another attempt at English accent. I actually think it's all right. I don't think it's too bad at all. It's not the normal. We get frustrated over here that when Americans or anyone else tries to do an English accent, it usually falls into 1 or 2 categories: the Dick Van Dyke, Mary Poppins accent, or the super posh accent, which don't really exist that much. But his accent was kind of a normal London bloke, and actually did it pretty well.
I didn't have a choice. I found it a funny accent, but I think that was part of the motivation of the character, that it was supposed to be comic relief. So I didn't have as heated an opinion as British Twitter. They were really angry at him for some reason.
Really? Wow. Is that like just he's culturally appropriating your accent? Is that what's happening there?
I don't know if they use those words, but it was a similar thing to when Anne Hathaway, was it One Day, and she tried to do a Yorkshire accent, and I've got family from Yorkshire, and I was just like, that is a terrible accent. I don't think it's cultural appropriation. I just think you did a bad job.
To be fair, yeah, you guys have very specific accents over there, and it's literally like, kind of like you'll hear about the rumors in New York where, like, you go 1 block west or south and that's a different accent, and that's like, everything's just very specific and precise. And the reason why your actors are getting all of our American jobs is because you're flooded out there with our content. So you've done a Montana accent, and you've done someone from San Francisco, and you've done someone from New York, and someone from fucking West Virginia. Like, you guys have figured all that out, and we haven't.
I mean, I can't claim to have figured out a British accent either. At work, people go, "Where are you from?" I'm like,
I just talk.
Yeah, from a British point of view, James sounds like he's been through several different Scandinavian countries and then settled in England.
Do you guys have HBO Max out there?
I don't think so. We have one thing called Now TV and a few other apps which, due to licensing things, kind of just integrate things from HBO or Showtime or other pay-per-view things in the US, and when they're aired here, these different services show them. But yeah, it's annoyingly, it doesn't have a one-to-one relation in terms of here's all you need to go for HBO. So in order to watch, say, Veep, I'll need a different streaming service than watching Game of Thrones, for example.
Oh, wow.
Which is silly because they're made by the same people.
That is irritating. I'm not, except for when I'm watching Cheers, but that's on iTunes. Like, I'm not much of a television watcher, but every 7 to 8 years, we get a new wave where all of a sudden we're just blessed and lousy with great television shows. And then they'll do their run 2, 3, 4 years and they'll disappear one by one. And then there'll be nothing again for 5 years. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I ain't doing nothing else, whatever. But right now, HBO Max is, again, when it's HBO or HBO Max, it's killing it right now. If you guys haven't checked out Winning Time or Peacemaker, Minx, those are all fantastic shows I've been looking forward to every week. And when they finally end, I'm a little bummed. What am I going to do now? That really ate up a good 6 weeks for me, and I was happy to. And I watched them over and over again. The biggest example is Peacemaker. I hate anti-heroes, and I never saw Academy Award winning Suicide Squad, but because it was free on HBO, I saw The Suicide Squad by James Gunn. I was like, oh, James Gunn can do no wrong. And then he came out with that TV show, and I watched every episode 3 times because it's despite the fact he's supposed to be an anti-hero, he's like, I'm a hero, and I will do anything to achieve peace, including killing every man, woman, and child I need to. And then people are like, oh my God, John Cena, you're a fucking monster. And I was like, okay, that's what I needed to hear. Thank you. This isn't Deadpool. He's not doing quips to the fourth wall. There's actually good motivation going on here. Have you seen any of those, or are they available?
I've seen the Suicide Squad, the James Gunn version, where obviously the Peacemaker character says that very line, and I liked it, and I know the Peacemaker TV show is a sequel / spin-off, which has almost little relevance to the film. It just happens to exist.
It's actually almost like 8 hours of the Suicide Squad, despite not having Idris Elba or the Shark or whoever in it. But it's even the antagonist. It becomes a situation where if you get infected by this thing, you're dead. It doesn't matter. So those giant starfishes in the movie, you're automatically dead. It doesn't matter if Idris Elba shoots you in the face or you kill Idris Elba. That is just a host, and now that person is dead. But still, it's fantastic stuff. Barry, please go.
Well, Peacemaker was. I've watched Suicide Squad. Watched both of them. Hated the first one. In fact, hated to the point of it making me angry because it was just an example of how not to do a film and how not to edit something. And
okay.
But the second one I enjoyed. It was good, fun romp and really adventurous. And Peacemaker is something I thought I would hate, just because I think there's a thing outside of America that characters that are very American sometimes are a bit too much for us. But actually, I really, really enjoy it. I'll use another series as an example. Actually, there's a series called End Space, I think it's called. It's a cartoon on Netflix. Final Space, that's the one.
Okay.
And it's a cartoon on Netflix, and the main character is a bit of a, well, from our point of view, he seems like a bit of a jock. He's a sort of a very
frat boy type, maybe.
Yeah, frat boy type character. And I watched the trailer and I thought, I will hate this. And then I watched the first episode and I thought, I hate this. But by the end of the first series, I loved it because that character was so he stuck to his conviction so much and was who he was and didn't apologize for it, and was thoroughly positive about everything he did, that you just went with him all the way. And absolutely loved it. And Peacemaker's got a similar sort of feel to it, that this character is who they are and they're convicted to to what they believe in and go with it, and you kind of go with it too.
There's one American character which, both because of the show what the concept of the show is, but also they've become extremely popular in the UK is Ted Lasso, because of the whole show is about him, trying to get into this UK culture and that cultural clash between him and other people. But we loved him, but because he's just, and I think US felt the same, he's just a very wholesome character that, regardless of any mannerisms or whatever cultural clashes there are, you can't help but love him.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up Ted Lasso. Like I slept on the Ted Lasso wave. Like I kept hearing great things about season 1. Didn't know anything about it. Don't have Apple Plus. I don't subscribe to that. So I didn't see any of it. And then season 2 came out again. Just didn't have access to it. My cousin sat me down and like made me watch an episode, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I get why people like this. Like the character, it's like they gave Ned Flanders his own series, but then like he's actually carrying like all this emotional baggage on his shoulders that he's not showing anyone else. And you're like, oh wow, this is amazing. I would end up going on the Brother-in-Law Network, which we don't need to talk about here, but Barry, you'll probably understand that reference, sort of. And I would end up finally watching the entire series, both seasons, and just went through the entire thing within a day and a half. And I was just like, I need more of this content. Like this, not only is this a good character, but he is bringing out the best in his supporting roles. That first season is a direct, I don't want to say ripoff, we'll just say homage to a movie called Major League, about a woman who inherited a Major League Baseball team and then went out of her way to make it the shittiest team ever. But those guys got a little spunk in them, and they go all the way to the playoffs.
It's like the producers for baseball.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great comparison, actually. The only difference between that movie and Ted Lasso is like, even Hannah Waddington like becomes likable. You're like, oh, okay. Even Ted Lasso turned that bitch around. Like, all right, we're gonna do this. Like, she's still a fun antagonist, but you're like, all right, I'm glad she's finally on board with this winning idea. Let's go. Yeah, Ted Lasso, great call, dude. Great call. I'm looking forward to a season 3 on that.
And it's a good example of something that's endeared itself over here because it gets the British side of things right. We're used to things that sort of have a bit of British in them, of just being a stereotypical view of Britain, view of England. Whereas Ted Lasso, it's almost like they got English writers, they got American writers, and they put them together and said, bring the best of both. And we can really relate to the things that, it's great. They've got the football stuff spot on. It's fantastic.
I don't know shit about football, American or European or global, whatever you want to call it. But like, even I'm just like, yeah, I want to see these guys win. Like you like all the characters, and you like the fact that they got their own little songs. Like, I'm like, coming from a pro wrestling background, I'm like, oh, that's amazing. I love that. Good. Speaking of culture melds, Atlanta, the TV series Atlanta, which is an FX series out here, it's now owned by Disney. But they left Atlanta, Georgia, United States, and they're going pretty much around Europe, but they've been in London, or at least the United Kingdom, for 3 episodes now. What's the consensus out there? Because I know James is watching.
Yeah.
What does regular Atlanta mean to you guys, and what is it now that they actually let's do a show in the UK or at least Europe?
I knew very little about Atlanta as a city, other than there was some, and I don't know enough to go into it, but there was some.
I still don't know anything about Atlanta, the city. Don't worry.
And this was based very much on the first series, as well as some stuff that Eddie Murphy and other black comedians have said. There was some notion or critique of gentrification because a lot of film studios and things were going over and making it more of a hipster thing. So that's all I really know about it. That it was underfunded, and now there's a influx of a lot of arts into it. yeah, no, the show Atlanta, and particularly these last few episodes in London, I'm not involved in the music industry here, Barry, and I know a couple of people who do rap in the UK.
Okay.
And yeah, from what it seems like it's accurate. In particularly in one of the later episodes where you actually see Darius wandering around and doing his own thing. That was very accurate how he interacted with British people. Yeah.
Darius had a problem where he ended up like he found a fantastic like Nigerian restaurant.
Jollof rice and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know anything about that, but I did feel him like he brought this complete stranger with him to this spot, and then that person fell in love with it. And I don't know anyone that can like buy a restaurant out, but I have had people like, I was like, yo, this is a special thing I really like. I would like to share it with you. They end up tainting it somehow. And in his situation, the entire restaurant closed, and we're like, where am I gonna get my fucking rice now from? I don't like. Oh, not only did you close the restaurant, but you're in a goddamn fucking. You're in a truck now. What? This lots of frustrations on his end. I felt that. I also really liked the episode where I forget what country they're in. They're not in the UK, but they're at a show that Paperboy is doing, and someone steals his phone. And we end up finding out who steals his phone, but the whole time, like, Earn, he's constantly on the market. He's like, who's got eyes on Paperboy? Like, I used to run live events. I still work at live events. Like, all of that, all those backstage shenanigans that and stresses you deal with, or he's dealing with, you deal with that. It's 100% accurate to the point where even where like he's like, I gotta frisk a cancer kid now for a fucking cell phone. Oh no. I think it's one of the strongest episodes of the season so far.
It was definitely my favorite, and one of their suspects that they interviewed for the phone, I thought he was hilarious, just because of his stubbornness, but happiness in everything they asked.
It's a real weird, morose. Yeah, like he's like, are you guys going to interrogate? He's like, we're not cops. You're not under arrest. We just want to know where my fucking phone is.
He's like, oh, can I play you a song? And they're like, sure, whatever, man. Just, do you have the phone
on? I think Donald Glover is obscenely talented and almost annoyingly so. The fact that he can turn his hand to so many things is just, and he's funny as well. When you see him doing, speeches or acceptance awards, he's a very funny bloke, and you think, you swine, you've got everything. So I'm gonna have to watch that. But yeah, even turning his hand to a Community as well, that's where I first saw him, and he's brilliant in that as well.
I tried to watch the first episode of Community. I hated it, and I never came back. And I understand like it gets way better after that, but I was just like, I still don't care.
I think, and I might be wrong in this, but he made like cameo background appearances in a few episodes of 30 Rock. So I think he was a writer for SNL very early in his career before he went and did Community.
Yes, and yes. He was also a writer on 30 Rock. And then he had his whole hip hop career as well, which was just like, oh, you do everything. You're a Renaissance guy. Like, people need to follow this man.
And he only looks about 30 now.
I think that's obscene. He still looks like he's 23.
It's that big beard. That's why he always has a beard. I realized when I got a beard, I stopped getting ID'd, and I was like, oh well, this will do.
Oh my god! So I've been able to grow facial hair since I was 15. Okay, the beard is a lot longer now than it did. This is my pandemic beard, guys. I don't care, but I never grew it this long prior. But I get carded now more at 43 than I ever did at 16 or 17. Like, you knew those places to go that wouldn't card you, but even then, there were some places that just didn't. They're like, well, he's clearly got a beard. He's got to be 22, but despite the fact that I'm only 16 or 17, and I was standing outside a liquor store one night with a couple friends. Normally, I was the guy to go, quote unquote, buy up. But this time I was like, yeah, I'm not doing it this time. One of you other dum-dums do it. I'm not doing it this week. I don't want to deal with the embarrassment or the humiliation of possibly being rejected. So me and 2-3 other people are waiting out for the guy who is buying up, smoking a cigarette, and some hobo walks up and is just small talks us or whatever, and then all of a sudden he's like, "I bet I can guess all your ages." Whatever, dude. All right, and he's like, he starts pointing at one of the girls, like, "You're 16," and he points out one of the guys, "You're also 16." Points out another person, "You're 17." Then he points at me, he's like, "You're 26," and I was like, "Bro, I'm 17." He's like, "You've had a hard life, brother. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And then he just wandered off, and I was like, "What the fuck just happened there?" It's quite traumatic and has no explanation to it, but that happened still.
Did you still have to get the booze?
After that night, sure, I got the booze a couple more times until I was finally 21. But yeah, weird situation. Very weird situation. Barry, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Oh, no, I don't do a great deal outside of the podcast, really. I work with James doing animations and things like that, video, but I haven't done my own stuff years. I used to be a singer-songwriter years ago.
Oh, fascinating.
So when I was doing that, I would have loved to have plugged it. But these days, unless I can get my crying child to harmonize in the background with me, it's not going to happen a huge amount.
Is there a catalog that people can like check out or even purchase?
There's a catalog that people don't want to check out, hidden away somewhere on the internet.
He's very underground, aren't you, Barry?
Oh, very, yeah, underground to the point of invisibility. Yeah.
I can relate to that. James, what would you like to plug?
Oh, that's a good question. I know Troy's wrestling podcast, which we talked about on a previous episode, it has a sponsor for a wrestling themed brewery in Liverpool called Top Rope. And although I'm not affiliated with them, they do good beers. I've had beers there before, so yeah, I'd plug that one.
There you go, man. Folks, the Where Nobody Knows Your Name podcast comes out every Thursday. You can find it on anchor.fm/WNKYN. They're also on Twitter at WNKYN. Cheers. I listen to the podcast on Spotify. Where else can we find the podcast, James?
We also put things up on Patreon. We have bonus episodes which will go up there, for example,
Nice.
where we talk about Wings, Saint Elsewhere, Simpsons, anything which has kind of crossed over or paid homage to Cheers.
I have to subscribe to Patreon. How much is the cheapest Patreon subscription?
$20,000.
No, what we've got here is listed is $9 per month, and that gets you our bonus episodes and newsletters, and who get their name shouted out in every episode of our podcast as a thank you. All of those listed so far. It's
Guys, can they find you on other Twitter accounts as well?
not on other Twitter, but we are on Instagram, where you
break
get
it
a lot of our imagery posts, as well as connecting with people who have worked on Cheers, and yeah, we often plug them and then us, vice versa.
There you go, man. Folks, I do a bunch of stuff here. You're already listening to the Microdose, so you know when and where to find that. But I do other things too. You can also find me on the Waffle Box. It's the best part of Wednesdays. Me and friend of the family, Mike Fish, we talk about everything and nothing all at the same time. You can find that on YouTube. You can find that at waffleboxpod.com and also on the BosNet.family. So for Barry Hall, for James Marshall, and the Where Nobody Knows Your Name podcast, I've been Kush Hayes. You've been you.
Microdose, 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 yeah, microdose.
From the BosNet family.
I don't think it's cultural appropriation. I just think you did a bad job.